and welcome. You're watching FII. I'm Rishika Barua. The COVID-19 vaccine is here for the masses, the general public. As you're all aware, those above the age of 60 and those above the age of 45 with comorbidities can now get the COVID-19 vaccine. But many people with comorbidities or those who are above the age of 60 are actually the section of people who have many questions about the COVID-19 vaccine. These questions are about pre-existing conditions that you may have, medications that you may be taking, and how it may react with the COVID-19 vaccine. So today on FII, our panel of expert doctors will answer your questions and clear your doubts, so you are empowered with all the information that you need to go out and get yourself vaccinated. We put out a tweet, we've also put it out on Instagram, and we've sourced about 20 questions, 20 key questions that our viewers have asked about the COVID-19 vaccination, and we will be posing those questions to a panel of experts and hope to get you some answers. Dr. Sunila Garg, member of the Lancet Commission COVID India Task Force, joins us at the very outset. We'll also be joined by Dr. Jaleel Parker, Senior Pulmonary Consultant, Leelavati Hospital, and Dr. Ripin Gupta, Director and Unit Head Cardiologist at the Max Smart Hospital in Delhi. I want to begin by asking you, Dr. Garg, what are the most common side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine?
See, primarily after taking the vaccine, one may have pain at the site of vaccine, may have some kind of itching, may have little bit of fever, but these are minor side effects, and maybe, a little bit of shivering and all that. But these all common side effects will subside within 24 hours. The major could be that, if one, so these are the common side effects, I'll say, and these are accounting for about 0.0004% of the total events so far. But if they are major, that means we are talking of severe adverse events. We have not seen any which can be a person can collapse, a person can, so that is a more severe, this thing can have a very severe neurological disorder and all, but we have not seen any of those. So as of now, we only see, fever, pain, some kind of itching, or, person will say, I'm not able to move the arm and all that. So that subsides within 24 hours. So that is all about it.
All right. So those are some of the common side effects, and these are, of course, many of these side effects have actually been listed, and nothing major has so far been reported. Dr. Ripin Gupta, should cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I think COVID vaccine should be given to offer to all of the patients. I get at least 200 calls every day that whether they can take a COVID vaccine or not. In fact, a lot of controversies for blood thinners also. Most of the patients who are on aspirin or even dual antiplatelets can be given COVID vaccination. Only the patients who are on very strong blood thinners like acetrom or warfarin, they are not eligible for COVID vaccination. Patients with comorbidities like cancer on chemotherapy, or patients of heart disease on blood pressure medicines or heart medicines, they are the persons who are more risk for COVID infection. So they should be offered the vaccination first, and they should go for the vaccination.
All right, you've answered a whole bunch of questions, and we'll come to some of those specifically as well. But Dr. Garg, the other big cause of concern, and a lot of young people have also messaged us this question, is the vaccine safe for those who are above 90 years of age? Many people asking this out of concern for their grandparents.
You see, as of now, basically, both the vaccines which we have given, they are safer for people above 90 years of age also. That means we are talking of AstraZeneca vaccine, Covishield, and we are talking of Covaxin as well. So we, at least, I have witnessed, some of the people who are 102 years of age, 90 years of age, it is fairly safe. And also I feel that it is important that, if they are suffering from any of the comorbidities, they should also consult their doctor before they come to the vaccination point,
right?
So that, anything which is there that can be ruled out, their C-reactive proteins and all that can be taken into consideration. So one should definitely consult a doctor if one is suffering from any of the comorbidities also.
So it's always a good idea to consult your doctor if you're, in the age group of above 90, if you have comorbidities, in order to get a better sense of, what the vaccination process would entail. Dr. Gupta, I want to come back to the point of blood thinners because this is the most commonly asked question. Can patients on blood thinners get the vaccine? What are the medications that you say need to stop temporarily if you want to get vaccinated?
You see, most of the patients who are taking blood thinners are on aspirin. So, number one, aspirin is totally safe. The patient is on aspirin, he can be taken up for vaccination. He need not stop the aspirin tablet. So, this covers around 80% of the patients who are taking blood thinners. Then, some of the patients who had a recent angioplasty done or who had a recent bypass done, they are on 2 blood thinners. The second blood thinner could be clopidogrel or one which is called as ticagrelor. So these 2 blood thinners, if they are there, even then the patient can go for vaccination, need not be stopped. Some patients have heart valve surgeries, or some patients have some arrhythmia problems known as atrial fibrillation. Then they are on blood thinners known as warfarin, acetrom, or some newer oral anticoagulants. The common name is apixaban, dabigatran. So these are some newer blood thinners. Now these are potent blood thinners, and sometimes patient can have a little bit bleeding when they're given that injection. So in these subset of patients, we say that they may stop these blood thinners for 1 or 2 days after consulting their cardiologist or a doctor who has prescribed this, and then go for vaccination and restart the medication after that.
So very crucial. You're essentially saying that not all medication needs to be stopped, but there are certain specific medicines that you may need to stop temporarily for a period of 1 or 2 days in order to get this vaccine. So, Dr. Garg, if I can sort of broaden the ambit of these to other medications as well, do patients need to stop certain specific medications? If so, which ones and for how long?
See, basically, as Dr. Gupta has already pointed out, that there are different kinds of blood thinners, and he has already pointed out that, if you are on warfarin and all that, that needs to be, stopped for some time. But I think, from my perspective, it is always better, anybody, the message should go from this platform is that, because you see, patients are laymen, those, even if those who are understanding also, the second advice must always come from a provider, that how early or how late we should be stopping these, medications, so that, they're on a firm footing and they go with the confidence. So I will always advise that everybody should be, kind of consulting the doctor, because aspirin, Disprin and all we are all aware of. But, primarily it is, as Dr. Gupta has pointed out, that, these medicines should be stopped.
Yes.
But as a public health person, I will definitely say that you must consult your provider.
Yes.
When you are blood thinners, what kind of surgery you have undergone and all that, because
yes,
quite a number of medicines may not be generic medicines.
Dr. Garg, I'll just briefly ask you another very important question that a lot of our viewers have actually asked. What about patients who've recently undergone surgery? How long after surgery should you get the COVID-19 vaccine? What should be that gap?
See, as long as, like, let's say today you have a bypass surgery or something, you have to, see that you recover from that, and you are, in a ambulatory stage, you are mobilized, and then, let's say any surgery 6 weeks, I'll say. Okay. But in the meanwhile, follow, SMS very strictly. That means sanitization, masking, and social distancing, so that, you are taking care of precaution after the surgery as well. And second is, that means you are not only protecting yourself from COVID-19, but you are protecting yourself from other illnesses as well.
Right.
So it's always better to wait for some time. But in the meanwhile, follow strict precautions. These are otherwise also good. And it is, I always say that, it's good that COVID-19 is amidst us and has always taught us, and has taught us many things.
Right.
In terms of washing hands.
Absolutely.
In terms of,
and those are protocols post-surgery that anyway all doctors recommend to be followed. Dr. Gupta, very specifically, is the vaccine safe for patients with pacemakers?
I think pacemaker is not an issue at all. In fact, it is safe for all cardiac patients. I'll put in a broadened way that all cardiac patients, whether they have a stent put in, whether they have a bypass done, whether they have a pacemaker, ICD, or a combo device or anything, it is safe. Only as I told you that certain blood thinners need to be stopped. So okay, if the patient is in doubt what are the medication he is taking, if he then he should consult his cardiologist and then go for the vaccination. But all cardiac conditions are totally safe. And as ma'am was already saying that if you have a recent surgery done, then of course you have to wait for a few days to weeks to get better, then go for the vaccination.
Right. Dr. Garg, another category of patients, who are counted in comorbidities. This is, of course, patients who are suffering from diabetes. And we know that, these are patients who are also the hardest hit by COVID-19 in a certain sense. Therefore, a lot of our viewers have asked a question on whether the vaccine is safe for patients who are currently taking insulin injections.
Primarily, all these patients, as a matter of rule, must go for COVID-19 vaccination. I believe that, when they are on insulin, their diabetes is controlled. But even if it is not controlled, they have to go forward and they must take the vaccination because, diabetes makes us vulnerable for so many infections. And COVID-19 is one of them. So, we need to have this kind of message very clear that persons who are diabetic must go for, because they may be on insulin, they may be on any other medication also, they should go forward and get the vaccine.
All right. Dr. Jaleel Parker is also with us now. Dr. Parker, let me just ask you this question because it's one of the most commonly asked questions. Patients currently who are being injected with insulin, they're taking insulin injections on a daily basis. Is the vaccine safe for them? Do they temporarily need to stop the injections?
Let us cut off all this myth. I think the vaccine is safe for everybody to take. So whether the patient is on insulin or is not on insulin, it doesn't matter. If the daily dose is taken and proper care is taken, I think they should take the vaccines.
Okay. Another question that, Dr. Parker, if I can bring you in on, since this is, your domain expertise, what about asthma patients who are using inhalers? And have very severe asthma. Is the COVID vaccine safe for them? Can they continue to use their inhalers as they get vaccinated?
Yes, they can continue to use the inhalers if they get vaccinated. I have received multiple calls and many of my asthmatic patients have already taken the vaccine and they did not have any issues in regards to that. But there is one observation that we have marked. And we had a discussion amongst most of our consultants because many of our doctors themselves and the nurses who had COVID, including myself, when we have taken the vaccine, the symptoms were a little more than the non-COVID patients, even though they had comorbidities. So I think the body was fighting against the, vaccine, but I think there was nothing that drastic that one should be worried about.
Okay.
And I think we should recommend taking of the vaccine, the first dose as well as the second dose. We all have taken. And I think we should tell the population at large, especially the senior citizens, people with comorbidities right from the age of 45 onwards, to take the vaccine.
Right. Dr. Gupta, patients with history of food or pollen allergy, patients who get throat swelling, they're a bit inhibited to take the COVID-19 vaccine. What would you advise them?
I think unless the patient has some allergy to some vaccination in the past, he can go for this vaccination. So I will not hold back the patient if he has a pollen allergy or if he has allergy to something. Unless he has received some vaccination, flu shots or something, and he had some reaction to that, then we may be a bit more careful. Otherwise, there is no hesitation.
All right. Dr. Parker, you wanted to come in?
Yeah. See, most of the patients who have allergies, whether they are pollen allergies, food allergies, etc. Usually, most of them, those who are allergic, aren't they taking the vaccine on a yearly basis? So why are we creating this myth of, they should not take the vaccine? Yes, if they have a severe anaphylactic shock which they had experienced with vaccines for influenza or for pneumovac, then it's a different issue. But otherwise, I don't think anybody should be avoided taking the vaccine.
Well, that's important advice. Dr. Garg, is the second dose of the vaccine necessary, and what's the maximum time gap? What if somebody misses the 28-day window? What's the maximum time gap between the two doses?
But before that, I'd like to add one more point to what, has been pointed out. That a lot of, I've seen that in our vaccination points, a lot of number of people, they come and say that we had been, allergic to penicillin and all that. And now, penicillin is not being used anymore. So that's not a point for contraindication. So these are the common things, again, which are being realistically asked to us at the vaccination points. Now you said that how much we can space. See, primarily, basically, the paper came in Lancet, where you see due to non-availability of the vaccine, some of them were vaccinated at 6 weeks gap, some of them at 8 weeks gap, and some of them were vaccinated at 12 weeks gap. Okay, so basically it is, and then, because the trial was not envisaged like that, trial was meant that second dose should be given after 28 days. But when they did that and they observed that, and they found that, basically as you prolong till 12 weeks, so basically, your seroconversion is much better and you get a better response. But you see, if you have to think from the immunization perspective, and I have to vaccinate the country at large,
yes,
I will keep the interval of only 28 days so that people will remember, they will come. Otherwise, our vaccination point is not going to be successful.
So there's a logistical challenge as well.
Yeah, so maximum one can prolong for 28 days, but maximum chance at that point will be that the person will say that, okay, now there is no need, I'm all right and all that. It is always recommended that one must take 2 doses of vaccine.
Okay, so I think that's a very important clarification. We have a whole host of questions still remaining, but we're going to slip into a very short break. Our panel of expert doctors will be live with us on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching FII. We're answering your questions on the coronavirus vaccine. Dr. Gupta, can one be infected with COVID-19 even after vaccination? And how long does it take for the body to develop immunity to COVID after you've been given the vaccine?
You see, number one, once we give a vaccination, it takes around another month or so after the second dose to develop full immunity. So we should be very careful that after the first injection, some people thought that, okay, they are safe from COVID infection. It is not so. It takes time to develop immunity, as ma'am was also saying that second dose, and if you delay the dose, then the immunity will develop. Secondly, then effectiveness of the vaccination available in India is something around 70 to 80%. So clearly, still after the vaccination, there is a chance that you can catch a COVID-19 infection. So it is not 100% efficacy. But the number one, the infection will be milder, not requiring hospitalization, and so recovery will be faster. So that is advantage. But even if you develop infection after the vaccination, the infection will be milder, and it will be easily recoverable.
All right. So you can still develop an infection, though it would be a milder infection even if you do develop one after the vaccine. Dr. Parker, very commonly asked question, what about alcohol consumption and vaccines? Should you drink after you've gotten a vaccine? Should you not? What's the doctor's advice?
Well, I think you can drink. Many of our colleagues are drinking even after taking vaccine on the same day. So I don't think, unless you have an underlying liver cirrhosis, etc., I don't think anybody is going to stop from drinking, and I think that would be a wrong advice either.
All right. Dr. Garg, should patients who've had very severe COVID-19, who've been hospitalized or in ICU, should they get vaccinated, and after how long after their recovery should they get vaccinated?
See, the moment they have completely recovered, that means almost it takes 4 to 6 weeks to come back to normal. After that, they can take vaccine, and they should take both the shots of vaccine.
All right. Dr. Gupta, how long does vaccine immunity last? Do we have any answers to these questions just yet? Will these vaccinations need to be taken annually?
I think right now it is too short a time to tell about the immunity, how long it will last. But I think that data will take time to collect, because vaccinations were developed only last year only, and they were launched only this year. So I think we need more data to tell us about the longevity of the efficacy. I think we have to wait for that.
Okay. Dr. Garg, though, from a logistics standpoint, because you're also a member of India's COVID-19 task force, are we gearing up in a certain sense for annual COVID-19 vaccinations?
You see, basically, India is well prepared for that because we have enough stocks of vaccines, and that's why we have increased the number of facilities also, so that we can cater to the needs of everyone. And also this thing is we have made this vaccine facility available 24/7 also. This was announced by Health Minister today. So we are well prepared for that, and we have enough supplies for that.
All right. Dr. Parker, another very interesting question, that's been asked is, since there's so much talk about, allergic reactions, etc., to the vaccine, and I know you've busted several of those myths here. Should you get an allergy test before you get the vaccine? Is that a wise thing to do?
No, I don't think that's necessary. I think we are creating nothing but a hype, and let me tell you, nobody knows anything about COVID, including myself. We are just talking from our experiences, and I think over a period of time, as the years pass by, maybe we'll be in a better position to know COVID, to treat COVID. I think the treatment of COVID also has evolved and changed over the last few months, where we were giving steroids, we were giving Clexane, you said don't give tocilizumab, you said remdesivir of no use, plasma, etc. I said, according to me, nobody knows anything about COVID, but yes, we are trying our best to see how we could treat the patients and how we could save lives.
All right.
And unfortunately, I'm sorry, you should forgive me for saying this, and I think even the medical fraternity should be aware that we really do not know much more about COVID.
Yes, but what our entire panel of experts today has reiterated is that you must absolutely go ahead and get the COVID-19 vaccine. It is safe. It will protect you from severe COVID infection. And we've hoped to answer some of the comorbidities questions, some of the medical questions that you've had. But you should, if you have any doubts, further consult your doctors. But the doctor's advice on the show today has been that you should go out and get the vaccine. Dr. Sunila Garg, Dr. Ripin Gupta and Dr. Jaleel Parker, thank you so much for joining us on this edition of FYI.